Hello, everyone. Today's guest is Lord Peter Cruddas, founder and CEO of CMC Markets. Since founding the company in 1989, Peter has built CMC into one of the UK's leading fintech businesses, serving millions of customers around the world. Today, we're here to talk about the journey behind that success, the decisions that shaped the company, and where he sees the future of investing. Welcome, Peter. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ed.
So yeah, Peter, today CMC Markets is obviously one of the UK's leading fintech companies. When you look at what you've built over the past 37 years, what are you most proud of?
Well, as soon as you began the intro and described CMC quite rightly as a fintech company, it took me back to 1989 when I first started the company. And, since then, people have said to me, "Oh, Peter, did you ever imagine that the company would be where it is today?" And I would say, no, that's not possible, because back in 1989, financial technology companies didn't exist in the way that we look at them today. I mean, what is a fintech company? Back in 1989, there were no smartphones. The internet hadn't been invented or hadn't been discovered. It was there, but it hadn't been discovered for the masses. There were no laptop computers. Companies like Facebook and Tesla and people like that, different companies in different areas, didn't exist. Google didn't exist. So it was impossible to imagine CMC's future as a fintech company, because what is a fintech company, And then things started to change. In 1994, I started reading about something called the internet. And then in 1996, I created what I claim to be Europe's first online trading platform to trade foreign exchange for retail clients. And then, since then, the world's infrastructure has developed and evolved, allowing firms like me on the front line of trading and services, financial services, to evolve into and create this fintech industry. So, that's kind of a backdrop of where CMC started and what the environment was like back then. And of course, it's a completely different world now. Can you imagine starting a company today without a website or a Facebook page? I mean, it would just be impossible. And also people, you couldn't find technology staff back in the early 90s. I mean, it wasn't even on the curriculum of universities. It was to a certain extent, but nowhere near where it is today. So it's been a journey, one that I've really enjoyed. And I love the way the world keeps evolving and the challenges that brings.
Yep. And when did a penny drop, Peter, that suddenly you were onto something?
It's a good question, and it's the right question to ask, but that assumes that the penny's dropped and there's nothing more to be dropped in the future. I don't really sort of think of myself, what was the eureka moment? What was the eureka moment that made this company go from a boutique business? And I've often thought it was the internet, but in actual fact, it's a lot of things. It's about applying our business models across the internet to different people, and also products, like innovating products, different financial products, being able to trade all of the world's financial markets within reason. I talk about major markets from one platform, from one account, and settling off exchange, on exchange. So there's 2 or 3 eureka moments, and I think there's more to come. So you can't sort of sit back and say, well, we've won the World Cup. That's it. We don't need to do anything more. Not that we've won the World Cup, but I'm trying to see if I've got any Spanish blood in my family, but I haven't found anything yet. But, you just keep going. You just keep going because it's exciting. Business is exciting. I'm never going to retire, by the way. I'm going to keep going indefinitely. I've got a lovely family. They support me. My wife and I have been together 41 years, married 39 years, and she supports me, and we've got a great life. And there's the two of us and our children, but they don't live with us anymore. So I'm going to keep going. I love it. I love business. I love my company. I love this company. I love the challenges. I see every opportunity, every challenge as an opportunity, not as a challenge.
Yeah, they often talk about as an investment strategy, people invest in founder-led companies still because it's so important to the future of most companies, because the founders are the one that drive the vision and things like this. So it's really good to see that you're still at the helm. I thought we could
I'm in here every day.
Yeah.
I don't believe in working from home. I think by having people in the office, working as a team gives us a massive competitive advantage. And so I have to lead from the front. You know me, Ed, I'm in the office every day before 7:30. I sometimes have to leave early afternoon to go to the House of Lords, but that's not really encroaching on my career at CMC. So yeah, leading from the front, in the office every day, always ready to work, nice suit and tie, shaven, ready to go.
There's a question I was going to ask. So back then, when the internet wasn't really established, or early days when the company was young, how did you find customers? Was it sort of more networking, or were people out going doing sales, or were you phoning people?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite bizarre because, you didn't have the world network where you could connect to people, where you could advertise and stuff. I used to put ads in the Financial Times. I used to talk to the Reuters salesman, do you know anybody that wants services? In the offices where we were in the city, there were different companies there, and they would come and say, oh, we need to do some foreign exchange. But, it was a small business back then, and, probably 10, 15 people. Started off with just myself in a small office with a telephone, and got a Reuters screen on trial. I didn't have to pay all the full price. No windows in the office. And you just keep ploughing on. You just keep pushing on. And eventually your name gets out there, and you start getting contacts, and you just keep building it out.
And if we just rewind back a bit to the beginning, you grew up in East London and left school at 15, no qualifications. What did life look like back then?
Big mistake leaving at 15. I tell you, I should have left at 14. I wasted a year. But anyway.
What did life look like back then, and how did those early years shape the entrepreneur you became?
Well, I think I had an advantage by not having a formal education, because back then, I mean, I came from a good family background, but poor. My mum was an office cleaner. My dad worked in Smithfield Meat Market as a porter, and also in a pub in the evening. He was also an inventor, my dad. He invented binge drinking. At his peak, he was drinking 25 pints of Guinness and a bottle of rum per day. You should read my book, Passport to Success, available on Amazon and all good bookshops. Sorry about the plug. But I think, I often think about university. First of all, we were not expected. I was born in 53, so university would have come to me at sort of 70, 71, 18. But you weren't really expected to go to university from my background. I went to a comprehensive school. My twin brother went to a grammar school. They got that the wrong way round. I should have gone to the grammar school, but anyway, doesn't matter. And back then, you took 2 A levels, and you had to be clever to go to university. I was clever. I was top of my class. But really, people never bothered to go to university. And what that did for me was, by not having a formal education, I had to work out how I would approach business, how I'd approach working. I never had any master plans. I never knew or dreamed that I would have my own company at 15. I just wanted to work. My mum had no money because my dad was drinking it down the pub. So I really wanted to get out and work and help and support my mum, which I did. And if you read my book, it talks about when I did a 14-hour night shift at Western Union, my first job. At 6 a.m., I used to meet my mum and go clean offices with her for a couple of hours. It's all about attitude and ambition and desire. And my desire was to support my mum, look after her, give her a good life, which I always did. And she gave up working. And when I became successful, but if you apply yourself, if you work hard, and wait for the breaks, or make the breaks happen. And I think I made the breaks happen.
Do you think it's
But
possible for anyone?
not going to university helped shape my thinking in an entrepreneurial way. I didn't have a formal education. And so I think that was an advantage in a way.
And do you think a lot of people have this sort of mindset? Is it possible for everyone to do this sort of thing, or do you think you have to be the right kind of? You need certain traits to become an entrepreneur.
Do you know, over the years, I've employed a lot of people, and most people want the benefits of having their own company and want the benefits of being an entrepreneur, but they don't really want to be an entrepreneur. They actually want a job where they see a job as partially lifestyle. So they want to, go and work in a good company. They're not very ambitious. They want to make friends in the company. They want to go down the pub on a Thursday night, maybe work the odd day from home from the office. They don't really have the desire or the mentality to be an entrepreneur. To be an entrepreneur, you've really got to want it and really got to, not cheat yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to, work hard, be in the office all the time. I mean, I would never when I was young, even when I wasn't running my own company, I would never get wasted the weekends. I'd never go out on the piss and, do a sort of 8-hour binge drinking session and go down a pub and then come back at 3 a.m. and crash out and ruin my whole weekend. I was always fresh. I was up early. I was eating well. I enjoyed the opportunities working. I liked having control over my life through earning a decent salary, helping my family. I liked that. That was what gave me the buzz, not, going away and just getting pissed off my head every night. I'd seen my dad do that, and I realised that when you live that sort of lifestyle, you lose control and you don't really achieve a lot. It's about attitude, really.
Yeah. And if we, so in 1989, you left a successful career and started CMC with £10,000.
Yes.
Looking back,
yeah.
What gave you the confidence to take that leap, and what did the first few months actually look like?
Well, look, in 1989, I was in my mid-30s, and I'd already had a reasonably successful career. I worked as a telex operator for Western Union for 3 years, from 15 to 18. I was made redundant at 18 and got a job in the dealing room in a bank, doing dealers' trades for them. I knew nothing about dealing. I just knew it was the right place to be. And I got this job and I worked hard. And over that sort of from the age of about 18 to the age of about 35, I'd done well for myself, reasonably well. I mean, but the point is that there were plenty of people that had done better than me, but I never wasted my money. I always traded up in property. When I could afford a new property, I'd buy a new property. So much so that, I got to the stage where I had no mortgage in my mid-30s. I had some savings, a couple of £100,000, which was not bad back then. And I had a house that's probably worth about £5-6 million in today's money. I paid 600,000 for it in the mid mid-80s with no mortgage. So I was quite comfortable, but I still had to work. And I started, I remember talking to my wife about this, and she said, look, you're going to have to give it a go, because if you don't, you might regret it all your life, So, and I just started off with a desk and a phone and a £10,000 company, no debt, never had any debt in the company, and became a broker. Now, back then, you didn't need to be regulated, not on the scale that you do nowadays. I think this is one of the major changes that I've seen in business life, where there's so much red tape, so much bureaucracy,
Yeah.
in every corner that you look in business. It's very hard to be successful in business nowadays because you need so much money and infrastructure. You need compliance officer, you need client money officer, you need regulations. You just can't do what you wanted to do. And back then you could. There are, in a way, I mean, I'm supportive of strong regulations because it's a deterrent for unscrupulous people coming into our sector. But
Yeah.
it was a lot easier back then, and you didn't need the capital, and you could start on your own and become a small broker and just build for there. The big turning point for me was when I really understood the internet and used that to develop the business. But the internet was there for everybody. It wasn't just for me.
Yeah. And was there any moment whilst you were growing this business where things didn't go to plan, that there was like a really tough point and you were like, oh, this might not work?
Um, no, because yes, there was. I remember one moment in must have been sort of summer '96, probably August 1996. I was sitting in my office, and there was a knock at the door, and in walked the chief accountant. We had 25 people, and the company secretary, who was an old guy ready for retirement, but I'd known him in my previous job, and he helped set the company up through the tax people and so on, company's house. And they knocked on my door, and they said, Peter, they said, look, cut your losses. You've spent a whole year's profit, £700,000, on developing this internet thing. It's clearly not working. Cut your losses and let's stop wasting money on this project. And this was August 96, September 96. And I said, you're wrong. This internet thing is going to be successful. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop developing this. And they said, well, you could bankrupt the company. I said, well, that's my company. It's my problem. Anyway, in October 96, I launched this platform. And at that moment, from the period them not coming in my office and launching the internet, I felt like I was a true entrepreneur then,
Yeah.
because these people, the board were against me doing it. We were a private company. I owned 100%, so I could do what I wanted. But they were against it, and staff were against it. The traders were against it. They thought it was somehow going to replace them. Back then we had 20 to 25 people in a small office just off of London Wall. And now we got, 1,200 people, 12 offices globally on 4 different continents. So it just shows you how the internet transformed this business.
How important do you think these big swings are, the big decisions to getting ahead? Do you that moment seems pretty pivotal in your success over time? Do you keep on taking these big swings in the company, looking for the next big win?
Commercially, I think the big swings, they get less, but they're always coming at you. And they're less relevant because we're an established business now. We write technology for some of the world's leading banks. We've got a great infrastructure, a diverse business. So we're not so sort of polarized in one area. It's a much bigger business now, much more diverse, and a lot more infrastructure. So but they still happen. And I call them pivot moments
Yeah.
because you have to keep pivoting with the times. I'll give you a good example of this. 5 years ago, no one was talking about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Along they come, you embrace them. You don't fully understand them, but you find a way of launching them and dealing with them and meeting demand from clients. And it'll be constantly, SpaceX was not a public company back then. So you just keep pivoting. You just keep in. The one thing I think I would advise any budding entrepreneur is that when you make money, keep as much money in the company as possible and keep investing. I cannot stop investing in this company because technology completely transformed this company and changed my life. And you've worked with me for a long time, Ed. You know how much I believe in technology and people, young talent. Invest in young talent, listen to their ideas, invest in technology. And if you stay on that road and believe that, you know, it's the right path to be on, it generally is. It
Yeah.
generally is. Maybe I downplay some of the decisions I make because this is a very large company now with huge turnover in financial products. But I've evolved with the business as well. And I tend not to get too transfixed on big decisions. I think, yeah, it's just another decision. Let's make the right decision and consult and challenge and then make the decision, then move on. Even if it's the wrong decision, you can put it right later on.
Yeah, it's a very good strategy because you can see a lot of companies over time that get too comfortable where they are, and then the competitors come in and they don't, they're not investing in R&D like they used to, and they become, they get taken over by the competitors.
Well, you've worked with me for a long time. You've seen my attitude to investing. If you've got a great idea, you come to my office and we'll talk about it. And you've seen that. You've seen that firsthand.
Yeah, no, it's always been a great honor to be pushing some of these things at the company. And you mentioned AI quickly, Peter. So it's obviously one of the biggest technological shifts since the internet. How do you think it genuinely changes investing or how the company operates over the next 5 years?
Look, nobody knows, and I'm not going to pretend that I know because there's no answer yet. Nobody can predict the future, but we're already seeing things coming through. It's much quicker to get things launched in this company now using AI. It's much easier for clients to analyze market movements using AI. I use Grok. I love Grok, but I also use the Google AI on the search engine. That's very, very good as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely making life easier. You don't have to second guess anymore. But from a company's point of view, it's a great thing because it means I can keep delivering technology quicker, faster, more efficiently. And once you've launched one iteration, then you can go on to the other one. Mm-hmm. We are not short of ideas. You need ideas first, and then AI will deliver those ideas. But ultimately, for AI to work for any business, the business has to have ideas and has to be successful and have to want to be successful. Then you can really empower AI to get you to that next level.
And CMC's already reinvented itself a few times already, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
What's the next?
That's just this week as well.
What do you see as the next chapter moving forward, and where the biggest opportunities are?
Look, we just keep growing. I think the big opportunities for us is that where companies don't have our attitude towards investing and technology, and everybody thinks nowadays that they do, but the reality is it's very hard to break up an environment, a business model that's been very successful for a long period of time. And where we're seeing traction and good opportunities is to help through our B2B programs, where we can go in and help banks and brokers to really develop their trading platforms, their trading systems to meet customer demand. Now, where we can help and where we're doing really well is we're able to go to banks and brokers, and there's been some very high profile, publicly available statements from us where we're partnering with Revolut, and we're partnering with Westpac Bank in Australia and ANZ Bank and around 200 partners around the world. So we can connect products to financial institutions that are well regulated, have good balance sheets, to allow them to expand their businesses into the retail space, to offer more products to a wider audience, and we can facilitate that. We have a great monopoly in this area because we've been doing it for 20 years, over 20 years, 25 years. And now the world's infrastructure is demanding more in this area. So, banks are saying, well, look, we want to offer your products to our retail clients. Can you facilitate it? The answer is yes, we can. We can launch the bank's products on our platforms that they can then trade with their own clients. And if they don't have products, for example, cryptocurrencies, because the bank doesn't offer those, we can offer those. We can offer out of hours. We can do the foreign exchange transactions when the bank or the broker is closed and the clients are trading indirectly with us. So we offer a sort of parallel universe to major financial institutions. We've got all the technology they need within reason. And it's a great opportunity, and it's where this business is going, to be honest.
Yeah, it's incredible the success you've had over the 37 years. Yeah, thanks for your time, Peter. It was really
Thank you, Ed.
dig into that. I have one last question before.
Yes.
If a young entrepreneur came to you today wanting to build the next great fintech company, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I mean, how long's a piece of string? Look, I think you don't really need to think about fintech to be successful. I think there's one word, well, 2 or 3 words really, not one word, but it's really about attitude. Being an entrepreneur, creating a fintech business is not for everybody. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of belief, a lot of determination. I mean, I've had these roadblocks all the time in my career, and I just bulldoze through them within reason. So I think do what you're good at. If you like being employed and you enjoy your career and you get challenges from that, that's very important to people like me, because we need talented people. And when you get talented people, they get bored very quickly. So you have to keep investing in them, keep believing in them, and keep pushing them to go to the next level. But if you've got an idea, just remember it's going to take a long time for it to be successful, but don't give up. Just keep going if you can.
That's some wise words to finish. And as you mentioned earlier, I recommend everyone, go read Peter's book, Passport to Success. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with, Peter?
No, I mean, I like to sort of give people the benefit of my experiences. If it helps somebody to be successful, we like helping young people in this company and mentoring people. So if it helps somebody, that's really good, and hopefully they'll become successful.
Cheers, Peter. Thanks very much. Have a good day.
Thanks, Ed. All the best.
Bye. Thanks, Peter.